Oh. Does anybody want to volunteer to go first, or should we just go alphabetically?
Um, I can go first.
Awesome. That would be wonderful. Welcome, Ken. Here we go, Ken. Thank you for kicking us off and sharing your hard crafted story.
All right. Well, um, just tell me when to go.
Yeah, you're
Okay.
go ahead. Yep.
My father was a physician and a hospital administrator, and you could say that I grew up in the hospital, starting in sixth grade when I got a job cleaning the shoes that surgeons wore in the operating rooms. I sat in the corner of the surgeon's locker room, working down the rows of white shoes, cleaning off the spilled and clotted blood, and listening to stories of the operations. Through all my jobs in the hospital over the years, I was excited by the patient-focused nature of the work and by knowing that I was helping others get better. I did a brief stint on the assembly line at Hoffman Plastics and found the work mind-numbing, the work environment dreary, and my workplace colleagues. Um, you know what? I'm reading the wrong thing.
Ah,
Sorry.
fake
Uh,
out. That was version
okay.
two.
Yeah, no, I got to find the one that I. Okay, well, maybe I should defer to somebody else while I find the actual one.
Okay, okay, yeah. You're among friends, so
Yeah,
uh,
sorry about that.
no, it's okay. Does anybody else wanna go? I can't find the timer either. Um,
Heather, you feel like you're ready. I don't.
I don't feel like I'm ready, but since you have called on me, I will go. Thank you, Hedda, for that.
Well, yeah.
Effective. Uh, all right. Just tell me when to start, Ashley.
Floor is yours. Yep.
The smell of wet earth, the rustle of the breeze in the leaves, clusters of bright yellow mushrooms, and multicolored leaves carpeting the forest floor. These are reminders of my early childhood spent happily wandering through the forest near my home. When I was 11, my family moved to more urban Long Beach, California. Here, nature was manicured parks and lawns, a golf course, but at least it was warm year round and I could go outside to run around, ride my bike, play tennis. One day, I went outside and encountered a brownish horizon and a weird smell. I took a
Mhm.
breath and felt like someone was squeezing back, preventing my ribs from expanding. I felt an anxious queasiness. I later discovered that this was a smog day, a day when the air quality was poor and unhealthy for young lungs like mine. These days turned out to be quite common.
Mm.
Meanwhile, in my own home, my father, a physician, regularly smoked cigarettes. I hated knowing that I was inhaling poison.
Mhm.
In protests, I covered my mouth and nose with a blanket to filter the smoke. Our TV room had a door that opened onto a side path in our yard. My siblings and I required my dad to sit outside on this path to smoke. Eventually, he quit. My first foray into activism was a success. As I grew older, I learned more about air pollution and its link to fossil fuels. My hometown was littered with toxic oil wells, pumps that looked like outdated dinosaurs moving up and down, slaking the thirst of greedy companies. I was angry and sad, but realized that the same tactics that we'd used on my dad, speaking up with uncomfortable truths, making the costs of the behavior outweigh the benefits, could also be applied to this bigger problem. Despite his poor personal health choices, my dad was a dedicated emergency physician who worked at a public hospital. He described the emergency room as a beacon of light in the middle of the night, available to all those in need. I liked this image and mission. Eventually, I also found my way to medicine, attracted by the opportunity to improve people's lives and to better understand what makes people tick. I've been fortunate to care for many veterans in San Francisco. They are immensely resilient, but there are so many systemic forces working against them, all amplified by climate change. In my kitchen, there is a sliding glass door to my deck, which bumps up against an oak tree that attracts many different types of birds and offers a beautiful view of Mount Tamalpais. One day I was cooking and heard a thud against the window. When I went to investigate, I found a bird lying on the deck, unmoving. I wasn't sure if it was dead or just stunned. I felt panicked, like I needed to do something to save it, but really had no idea how. I Googled what to do when a bird hits your window. I learned that I should cover it, provide calm and quiet, and let it recover on its own. Fortunately, this approach worked and the bird flew away. Unfortunately, over the past few months, these collisions are increasing in frequency. This upset me so much that I searched for a solution and discovered that I could apply a special type of tape to my window that makes it visible to birds, preventing catastrophic crashes. As healthcare professionals advocating for climate and health solutions, I imagine that many of you feel the same type of distress as you witness the repeated and unnecessary suffering and harm caused as our patients and communities slam up against the conditions caused by climate change. This frustration may amplify as you see that we are not implementing solutions that are just as simple as putting tape on your window, like stopping the manufacture and use of fossil fuels. In many ways, crafting and telling our climate stories is the tape, helping to make the invisible threat clear. Every day, we hear about another climate disaster wreaking havoc on entire communities. We watch in dismay as those with resources and power turn their backs on efforts to mitigate and adapt and deliberately take actions that will accelerate warming of the planet and harm the most vulnerable. Recently, some happy gremlin has infiltrated my LinkedIn feed, providing me with optimistic, innovative stories about climate change. These include green roofs made from discarded materials in impoverished Rio de Janeiro favelas, which substantially lower indoor home temperatures, and a cafe in Mexico City that takes its patrons' food waste and teaches them to compost. More locally, I discovered a collaboration between an environmental design company and a historically redlined neighborhood, West Oakland, which uses trees to create natural barriers between communities and major roadways, improving air quality, managing stormwater runoff, and creating walkable outdoor spaces that invite community. We can choose where to put our energy and attention. I am choosing to pull away from climate doom scrolling and paralysis and move towards inspiration and action. I challenge you to choose to notice the positive and innovative solutions that are all around us and pick one to support. To get you started, I have an invitation. January 5th, we will host a panel of participants in the West Oakland Reunion Project. Please join us on Zoom to learn how working together across disciplines and life experiences can lead to innovation and real change in frontline communities. It's a choice to turn to the light and make hope. As Rebecca Solnit says, hope is not like a lottery ticket you can sit on the sofa and clutch, feeling lucky. Hope is an axe you break down doors with in an emergency. Hope should shove you out the door. Please come join me in falling out the door.
Woo!
Oh,
So
amazing.
good. So good.
So good. Yes. I want to come with you. Give me goosebumps. I love it. Wow. What an amazing evolution. And does anybody else want to join me with Heather on the 5th, right?
Yes.
Super specific and collective and clear. I love it. Wow.
We write it, Dawn. I love that, Stephanie.
What'd she say?
She said in the comments, we write it, Dawn.
We read it.
Awesome.
Wow.
No, you guys have all been so helpful in crafting. It's been painful, but it
It's
evolved.
pretty good.
Yeah. Important things are. Woohoo. Love it. Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Yay.
I thought you were ready. I said you were ready. Like you were
I
ready.
wasn't really ready, but it's better to dive in sometimes. It's like that cold water.
Yeah.
Now I can sit back and relax and listen.
Totally. Yeah. Who wants to go next? That was great.
Okay.
Great kickoff.
I
You back,
found
Ken?
it.
And you got the
I
video
found it.
too. Bonus.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. And I even figured out the timer, I think. So we've got our stride. I'll get that, but go ahead. Can't wait.
My father was a physician and a hospital administrator, and you could say that I grew up in the hospital, starting in 6th grade when I got a job cleaning the shoes that surgeons wore in the operating rooms. I sat in the corner of their locker room, working down the rows of white shoes, cleaning off the spilled and clotted blood, and I loved listening to the surgeons as they talked about the operations. I loved learning new things, and I wanted a career that capitalized on this, that let me tackle problems and challenges, and in which doing so would make a positive difference in people's life. Ultimately, this led me to medical school, where one day I stood in front of a 22-year-old sailor with end-stage testicular cancer to tell him we didn't have any more treatments for his cancer and we could only refer him to a hospice. I still recall the tears in his eyes and the desperation in his voice as he begged, pleaded, and bargained for just one more chance. The anger, frustration, and sense of tragedy I felt at that moment crystallized into a determination to care for oncology patients and to find new treatments for cancer. After losing my job to a recent corporate downsizing, I enrolled in a Master's of Public Health program to study public health and saw how climate change influences health and health equity. I came to see that climate change is as unjust, inequitable, and malignant as cancer. In moving to California, I learned that respecting and valuing the environment and regarding ourselves as its stewards instead of dominating and exploiting it can bring about change that can positively impact patients with cancer. A key element in this is effective advocacy. I joined this class to improve my skills and realize that we all have much in common. We all value humanity and are in this to relieve people's suffering through science. We all value compassion, patient care, and public health and want to make a difference in defending them against the intense threats from politicians and vested business interests. We all live in the reality of juggling home, work, and this advocacy, and I believe we are all distressed at seeing how respect for patients and for healthcare equity and justice is being eroded in the name of greater and greater profit and bigotry. We have all experienced how climate change events disrupt the care that patients receive. Air pollution and wildfires exacerbate asthma and COPD. Important diagnostic tests and follow-up care can be delayed if extreme heat or poor air quality prevents patients from getting to appointments. Power outages or physical damage to buildings can threaten the integrity of stored tissue samples or specialty medications. From an oncologist's perspective, cancer treatments are precisely calibrated as to timing and dose, and when cancer patients can't get to their chemotherapy appointments or miss radiation therapy because a flood closed down access to the RT department, their outcomes suffer. Cancer patients on active treatment require close attention and monitoring to avoid serious side effects. And when medical records can't be retrieved because of damage to the building, patient safety can be jeopardized. We can and must do better than this for all of our patients. Effective advanced planning and preparation can mitigate these problems. Climate resiliency plans that take into account the needs of oncology as well as other specialties can make the difference between letting patients twist in the wind, medically speaking, as they deal with loss of home, family, and security, and in supporting them so that they can be empowered to focus on these terrible crises with the assurance that their health and well-being at least are being provided for as best they can be. We all see the wildfires, and those of us in SoCal have experienced last week's recent heavy rainfalls. How many of our institutions have disaster contingency plans? How many of these encompass the needs of cancer patients and other patients with specialized needs? I work with a group called Ouch International, a group of oncologists interested in mitigating the impacts of climate change on cancer. We want to work with you to bring our collective experience, knowledge, and creativity to bear on the problem of expanding disaster planning beyond triage and acute trauma care to encompass the unique needs of patients with chronic diseases, including cancer. We start by discussing common concerns, understanding where the needs of our patient populations overlap, and what resources are available. I'll be sending out a when to meet poll to this group later this week to convene a working group in early January to start this dialogue. Please indicate your availability to meet and participate in the discussion. Thank you.
Woohoo! Again. You're like actively organizing the group. I love it. Fantastic. Fantastic. I really love the part about you as a little kid, having those early experiences in the OR and in the plastics factory. I remember your evolution of that. So awesome job. Woohoo.
And
Thank you.
And
that's
time to
some
spare.
as well, which is exciting.
Yeah. Woohoo. All right. I see Amanda, Stephanie, Michelle, Catherine, McKenna.
I can go next if you'd like.
Okay, Great. Oh, and I want to just say a big thank you because Ken last week represented THN at a like Patagonia action event and talked about the Bureau of Land Management protection. And then Amanda did an event last night too in Santa Monica. So
And Stephanie was there.
and Stephanie was there. Whoa, I love it. That's really, really cool. So I love the web is getting woven in real life too, which is cool. Yeah, go ahead, Amanda.
Awesome. Okay. In second grade, we moved to California from Germany to be closer to my aunt. She had just been diagnosed with metastatic breast cancer in her early 30s, and we were with her in her journey. I witnessed the chemo change her. My aunt Joanne was one of the strongest people. She was born with a sequela of congenital rubella. She had cardiac surgery at a very young age, was born with total deafness and partially blind. When she was growing up, there wasn't as many accommodations for people who were differently abled, but she didn't complain or let any of that stop her. My dad told us stories of when she was young. She would practice facial movements every day in front of a mirror to mimic what she saw hearing folks do to speak more clearly. She ended up being so able to communicate so clearly that she followed my dad to New York for college. She graduated from a hearing school. Even with all of the possible barriers, she never perceived them as such. She knew what she wanted, that she could do it, so she did. When I was about 11 years old, she was in her last few weeks of life. I stayed at her house with my grandparents to help take care of her. She was so cachectic, the cancer metastasis had traveled to her brain and caused a necrotic wound in her shoulder. So deep you could almost see bone. One night it was just me, my Aunt Joanne, and my grandpa spending time together. I stayed to help him because he himself has a physical disability. He grew up in poverty in Shanghai after his family moved from Macau for job opportunities. He broke his leg when young and didn't have access to medical care, leaving him with an impaired gait. My aunt was now spending her time being transferred between the couch and her bed. When it was time to say goodnight, my grandpa picked her up from the couch and carried her to her bed. As he walked back through the darkness, I saw his shoulders shaking, the first time I'd seen him cry. I held him while he wept. When Joanne passed away, I felt like I needed to be a rock in the family. I tried to be strong to hold space for everyone else's emotion. My aunt had such a strong spirit, but she was dealt an unfair hand. She taught me that anything is possible, but there are inequities and unfairnesses in this world. After she passed away, we were living on an island in rural Washington in a town of 1,200 people. My brother, Dad, and I each planted a baby pine tree in the forest by our house in her honor. Over the years, we visited her and watched her grow. We could feel her spirit in the trees. The trees have grown strong, just like she was. Every year, we visit her in the forest. She's grown so tall, nearly outgrowing all of the foliage around her. I've always found a deep connection in nature. We are part of her, and if we continue to destroy the climate, the animals, the birds, the trees, we are again imposing injustices on my aunt, growing steadily in the forest, persisting, which she unfortunately wasn't able to do in this human life. Ever since then, I've chosen to be a caregiver. I was pushed to learn that I can compartmentalize. I have a strong physical and emotional response to injustice, but when called to do so, I can show up for someone in strength and vulnerability. The sense of responsibility I have for my family has nurtured a sense of responsibility for my community, both the human and our more than human kin. Today, I've continued to center justice in the work that I do. I'm a FAMMed Community Medicine Fellow. I work with individuals and communities that have been historically marginalized, like people experiencing incarceration or in-house folks. I'm dedicated to social justice and environmental justice work because I cannot accept individuals or communities being sacrificed for perceived benefit of a dominant group. My passion to address injustices and the harm to our planet, like you all, inspired me to sign up for this class. Right before our first session, I closed the tab on my desktop with the latest news about the devastation to our world. I joined the Zoom link. I'd been feeling overwhelmed with the constant barrage of negative news. I want to do something, but the problems keep feeling bigger and bigger, and I as an individual have been feeling smaller and smaller. But then when we began the icebreakers, and as we shared our values, I resonated deeply with what people said. Advocacy, community, relationships, and the struggle for justice. I slowly felt the walls of individual concern melt away into a collective resonance. When we share our stories, there are memories shared about the destruction of our planet and how we've individually been impacted, like from exposures to environmental toxicants, making it harder to breathe, our lived experience of natural disasters like wildfires and the smoke from it. But then there are also beautiful examples shared about how amidst the chaos, there are courageous and resilient acts of caring and kindness. What nature meant to us as in our formative years, like taking care of a bird at a young age. I feel hopeful and connected as you all display brave acts of vulnerability and sharing your stories. We are busy, but I look around and see people who chose a life of service. I no longer feel so small and overwhelmed because I'm connected with this community. This year, I watched from our window as the fires destroyed the land and the lives around us in the LA. I worked night shifts during the fires, the hospital overwhelmed with the smell of smoke. And after the initial shock of the fires, we then entered the heat season. A few days ago, I was speaking with someone experiencing homelessness. The sun was hot on our backs, and it was already November. It's hard to imagine how the unhoused community navigates the heat of the summers. As I changed the dressing on his leg wound, he told me, "It's tough out here. I just lost my job. I just lost my house. It's just me and my dog." As we drove back to the clinic, we passed multi-million-dollar houses. Injustices are causing my community members to suffer, forcing them into increased vulnerability to the changing climate. It is not just, and the sense of responsibility to show up for my communities has grown so that I feel we need to do something to help now. We are all here because we know that our community, our country, our world is in crisis, and we can come together to make a change. A few weeks ago, we Californians from all walks of life stood in line for an hour on a weekday in the dark to vote on Prop 50. No one looked frustrated that they had to wait in the dark in the parking lot for an hour to protect democracy, and we did it. So what can we do today? It starts with small steps, daily practices to make systemic changes. The next step is to help protect our public lands from expanded oil and gas drilling. Come to Climate Health Now's meeting on 12/16 at 12:30 p.m. to submit public comments to BLM. Like my Aunt Joanne, if we can believe it and work towards a goal, we can do it. We've created the world and society we live in today, and we can imagine and build a more beautiful world together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This is amazing. I'm definitely joining that meeting. That was so cool. Yeah, I loved hearing about your family and yeah, bringing it real life, real, yeah, very real. Thank you.
Amazing.
It's hard to
I
even
liked
bring
how
words to it.
I liked how you melded your aunt and the tree, and you talked about you visited her and watched her grow up. That was
Mhm.
really very, very, very
Yeah,
powerful.
totally.
Thanks, Ken.
Mhm. Yeah. Special work. Awesome. Thank you, Amanda. Stephanie, are you getting ready? Do you
I
want to share?
thought that I would, sure.
Mhm.
As I was grabbing my water bottle, I was like, I hope they don't take this as me getting ready.
We
I'm
did.
Ashley.
We take any
Okay.
sign.
All right,
Hi.
I'm ready. Okay. At 5, I sat on Main Street at the Lion King parade, wearing an oversized pair of Levi's and sneakers, careful to keep my white shirt clean as my mom insisted. As an only child, I had long learned to find comfort in my own company. So there I sat on the sun-warmed sidewalk, too shy to inch closer to the loud, boisterous family beside me, as the sounds of excitement and joy swirled around us at the happiest place on earth. During a performance, a lion dancer with striking green eyes and bright white teeth approached, holding a rain stick and inviting me to care for it as he propelled and contorted his body, mimicking the fluid motions of a lion. I avoided eye contact and shook my head. My father nudged me, urging me to take it, but I refused. The lion passed it to the loud group of children to my right. My father's look of disappointment stayed with me. What he understood, and I would later learn, was that my voice mattered. Even at that age, I was already interpreting banking forms, medical documents, and speaking at appointments for my parents. I had the English they did not, and I often had to command rooms on their behalf. The rain stick was not just a prop, it was a call to step forward, even when I felt small. That memory of silence became fuel for action. Today, I work at a nonprofit that empowers first generation students like me, the first in our families to graduate middle school, high school, and college to navigate education, healthcare, and professional spaces. I am still on my journey, preparing to apply to medical next year, but now I hold the rein stick firmly. As an emerging physician leader, I will ensure that no child has to bear the weight of serving as a lifeline for their parents or elders in an inequitable healthcare system, that every patient is met with humility and respect for their culture and story. Across the country, communities, especially immigrant, rural, and low-income populations, face overlapping challenges: limited access to healthcare, shortages of trained clinicians, and systemic barriers to mentorship and education. We see it in overcrowded ER rooms, where families make the desperate choice to call an ambulance rather than risk waiting in line at the registration desk, hoping to be seen faster. It's these same communities working in meat packing factories and picking our fruits and vegetables under the searing heat of the Central Valley who are disproportionately affected by climate change, facing extreme heat, flooding, and other environmental stressors that worsen the inequities they already endure. These overcrowded ERs, where patients leave clinicians asking, "Why didn't you come in sooner?" are just the tip of the iceberg. When clinicians rotate in for a few monthly shifts, stay at hotels, and live several hours away, patients don't experience the trust, comfort, or connection that comes from consistent community-rooted care. These temporary arrangements leave little room for understanding the community or investing in long-term relationships. Projected clinician shortages will only deepen disparities, especially in underserved and rural areas, already hit hardest by systemic inequities and climate-related crises. Without intervention, these communities risk losing the care and leadership they need to survive and thrive. Mentorship is more than guidance, it is care. It equips first-generation students and students from underserved communities to navigate inequitable systems, fosters future leaders for underserved communities, and addresses the intersection of healthcare, climate, and justice. Mentorship opens pathways for those who understand the needs of underserved communities to return and serve, and to leverage their relationships and lived experiences to develop culturally grounded, community-informed strategies for care. We need to start now. Medical school takes 4 years, and residency takes another 3 to 7. This journey is long, and starting early is essential to address the projected gap in care. You can make a difference by donating just 2 hours of your time, twice a month, over Zoom, to mentor a student from a community disproportionately affected by climate change. By providing guidance, support, and access to resources, you are helping someone navigate a path that would be far harder alone. Mentorship ensures that students can become clinicians, scientists, and change makers who return to strengthen the communities most impacted by environmental stressors and systemic inequities. That the rain stick is not just a symbol of stepping forward for one aspiring clinician. It represents the collective action we can take to ensure every voice is heard, every emerging leader is empowered, and every community has the resilience to face what comes next. Scan the QR code to sign up as a mentor, and if you're able, please also consider supporting our end-of-year giving campaign to help sustain this work.
Ooh, great job, Stephanie. Wow. And this is the work that you're doing, right? I think that's how we all got connected. So amazing.
Put the QR code in the chat.
Heck yeah. Yeah, really, really cool. I did I'm sure you've heard of the National Health Service Corps scholarship. Yeah, that's how I got through med school. So lots of appreciation for addressing the health professional shortage areas. Yeah, totally. To second Heather's comment in the chat about seeing your evolution. Yeah, picking up the rain stick. I love it. Your papas must be proud. Yeah. Wonderful. All right. Michelle, you want to share?
Okay, sure. Okay. All right. I am a registered nurse and the practice director of a primary care medical group. I spend my days thinking about ways to help patients be healthier and happier, to keep them safe, to make sure they don't get lost in the system and have the knowledge to best care for themselves. This work has always felt important and personal to me, to care for each patient as if they were a family member. It is work that comes naturally to me. As the oldest of 5 kids, I was always looking out for my siblings, a rowdy bunch who spent our days roaming the dry, drought-touched San Diego canyons behind our house, riding makeshift sleds down the steep grassy hills, building forts, even climbing around in the storm drains inspired by the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was in 3rd grade when I found a baby hummingbird on the ground, alive but barely. After watching and waiting for his mother all afternoon, I decided that I needed to do something and gently took him home. I named him Willie. My mother took me to get him hummingbird nectar. My mother, a role model for how to care for others, always patient and ready to help despite the endless demands of such a full house, cooking and cleaning and coupon clipping, making sure we all did our homework so we could go to college, something no one in my family had yet done. I fed Willie with an eyedropper and watched him grow, had fantasies of him flying off heeled to go live his happy hummingbird life. But after some months, Willie died. I never knew why, but I was devastated by the loss of this beautiful little creature, my first patient. 40 years later, and I'm continually amazed by the advancements in medicine, by how much we now know about preventing disease and promoting health, by the life-saving technologies at our disposal. And yet it feels inadequate given the planetary crisis we are facing. We work so hard to treat health issues, but don't do nearly enough to address root causes like poverty, polluted air, and exposure to toxic chemicals. That's what drew me to this class, and from the first day, I knew I was among like-minded peers. I readily connected with this group of justice-minded healers and helpers. Your stories resonated with me. The horror of gun violence that claimed the life of a student, the dawning awareness through a child's eyes of a society that turns a blind eye to the suffering of the unhoused, stories of personal connections to nature and our collective personal experiences of the harms of climate change. We are caregivers. We are believers in science. We want to bring a better, safer world where plants and animals and human beings can thrive with clean air, clean water, and thriving ancient redwoods. We all know climate change is real and here and now, and that it is getting worse despite clearly recognizing the problem decades ago. Due to successful industry disinformation and delay, we have not adequately heeded these warnings. Now we find ourselves at the moment where the crisis is undeniably here and incremental change is no longer enough. There's plenty to be hopeful about, though. Recent decades have brought increasingly scalable green technology that is gradually eclipsing fossil fuel due to its undeniable economic viability. We now know how to stop and even reverse the climate catastrophe we see unfolding before our eyes. We, the species that created the systems that are destabilizing our world, already possess the knowledge and capacity to fix them. But the progress that was starting to bear fruit is now under attack by an administration hell-bent on sowing chaos and accelerating the global disaster that is also very close to home. It is a dizzying reality. The day the skies turned orange and apocalyptic here in the Bay Area as a direct result of big oil emission-fueled wildfires, we were working in a parking lot swabbing thousands of nostrils during the COVID-19 pandemic. Pandemics will become more frequent and worse due to climate change. Air pollution alone will kill millions across the globe each year. Listening to my asthmatic husband's labored breathing on Spare the Air days makes this very real for me. Lethal floods, heat domes, and Category 5 hurricanes are already affecting places where my friends currently live. This January, my closest friends and their 3 small children were displaced by the fires in Altadena. As a Californian, it is harder and harder to insure your home because the insurance companies know climate change is real and don't want to pay for it. The signs are all around us. As the saying goes, the best time to plant a tree was 30 years ago. The next best time is now. So what will we do now? We have the will. What can we do? Here in California, the world's 4th largest economy, we have a real chance to lead the way on climate. Corporate greed and corporate profits have been prioritized over the common good and a healthy planet for far too long. If massive corporate profits have been the cause, why not tax them to fund solutions? This is what the Make Polluters Pay bill will do. It will tax fossil fuel profits and create a super fund to continue California's just transition off of fossil fuels while adapting to the new climate realities. We all want to know how to help. This bill is one huge way to fund a better future, to protect the most vulnerable, and to lead the way for the good of all. We could not afford to do nothing. Our house is on fire, and we all have a part to play. From what I have heard from each of you, this is a goal that truly unites us all.
Yay! Wow, Michelle, I love it. You went from so many really powerful story moments to another upcoming opportunity. Yeah, I didn't mention this, but Climate Health Now is part of, we're organizing like a advocacy speaker training on January 5th around Make Polluter Pay. So I'll be sure to share that. But Michelle, yeah, awesome work. Yeah.
Michelle,
Yay.
one comment is when you said like cooking and cleaning and coupon clipping.
Mhm.
I just like there's a story in there. It's just like a one sentence story, which was really powerful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah, I felt with and for your mom. Truly. I mean, that captured so much, like Ben just said. Yeah. Yeah. All right, McKenna, Catherine.
Yeah, the path is narrowing.
I'm happy to go.
Great.
Yeah.
Um, My grandmother instilled in me a deep sense of justice. When I was 4 years old, she would take me around Santa Monica to meet her friends who lived outside and bring them food. I remember her friend Bruce the best. He lived on the beach and always requested turkey sandwiches and library books. I once asked my grandma why Bruce lived outside. She told me it was because he wanted to. Over time, I came to realize that many of these friends I met, including Bruce, were unhoused. Southern California, at least 20 to 30 years ago, had a mild climate. Living outside year round near the coast was physically possible. In high school, my family moved to New Jersey. The January after we moved, I went with my Jewish youth group to deliver clothes to unhoused folks living in New York City. It became clear that the choice to live outside was often dictated by several factors, including resource availability of the city, personal feelings of safety, and weather. And often, those most impacted by these conditions were the children living without a home who had no choice at all. Feeling sad, frustrated, and driven by my value of justice, my graduate school studies focused on the mental health impacts of childhood adversity and structural inequities. Conversations with students, patients, and friends moved me towards exploring climate change as a unique stressor. I remember talking with a friend during her pregnancy about where we wanted to live long term. We went to a US map that showed us projected future climate impacts and looked in terror as we realized nowhere felt safe from the threat. In moments when action feels futile, I think of Emre, my friend's now 2-year-old son who lives in New York City. He has visited the emergency department 10 times since he was born for respiratory distress. On his second birthday, brush fires erupted in New York, spewing thick smoke into the air. The particulate matter from the smoke, a byproduct of a changing climate, invaded his small, developing lungs. He spent 5 months on a daily steroid inhaler to mitigate asthma symptoms, yet still had to be admitted to the emergency department for intravenous magnesium. Emre isn't just battling asthma, he's fighting the systemic failure to protect him. Children with their unique and vulnerable physiology bear up to 88% of the disease burden from climate change. And it's not a distant threat for tomorrow, it's a crisis of today, manifesting as intensified allergies, heat stroke, respiratory distress, and rising rates of infectious disease. Every climate policy decision or non-decision is a pediatric health intervention. Whenever I'm in a room of pediatric providers, I feel a sense of camaraderie. We all chose this profession because we're committed to protecting the most vulnerable among us. We must also be committed to updating our practice to meet the moment. The risks facing children today are beyond what we were prepared for through our coursework, textbooks, and exams. And the evidence is undeniable. Our pediatric emergency departments are filled with more physical and mental health crises on hotter days. We are navigating how to add extreme weather safety plans into our workflows to help protect against long-term consequences to children's hearts, lungs, and brains. We are witnessing a rising tide of eco-distress in our adolescent patients, a rational fear of a destabilized future. The good news is that we have the power to write a better ending. The medical community must stop merely treating the symptoms and take action for radical climate mitigation. And this action does not have to be taken alone. I urge you to join me in working with Physicians for Social Responsibility to take collective action. You can find your state chapter through psr.org and contact them this week. The coalition amplifies healthcare provider voices and provides structured channels to influence legislative agendas that can align with what you have capacity for. And with the upcoming 2026 legislative sessions, many starting in January, this is an opportunity to have your voice drive state-level climate and health policy, financial decisions, and resource allocation. This unified action is transforming the narrative from crisis to solution, ensuring a healthier, brighter, and sustainable world for younger generations.
Yeah, love it. Very, very specific. Everybody's got a PSR chapter around. That's really great because I remember, yeah, there's been so much evolution in your ask, which is fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, the little boy Emre, like I yeah, the depth of what he's had to face is really powerful. Thank you, McKenna.
And you have a minute.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Was there anything that you wanted to weave in?
I cut a lot because I felt like I was running up against 5 minutes in the other practice, so I could bring some things back in. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it might like, be flexible with kind of different situations you're in to, expand or shrink certain parts. So awesome job, McKenna. Great. All right, Catherine, we're
All
looking at
right.
you.
Okay. In
Yay.
hearing you all, I know that I need to have like a more specific ask at the end. So if you have suggestions for me, I'm going to keep thinking about that. But I feel like I'm stuck in still a draft, early draft phase
Sure.
here. But
Ah,
here
okay.
goes.
Never finished.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I don't eat meat, stated Vijaya, my classmate sitting with me at a round white table in the Kent Gardens Elementary School cafeteria. Why? I asked, with a roast beef sandwich from the lunch line sitting on my tray. I'm a vegetarian. My family is Hindu, and we believe our ancestors can be reincarnated as animals, so we don't eat animals. I nodded. Vegetarian, I repeated to myself. This exchange stayed with me throughout the day. I thought, I love animals. I don't want to eat animals. It was simple. When I got home, I announced to my parents, I don't want to eat animals. I want to be a vegetarian. My parents stared at me with wide eyes. Okay, Catherine, let's talk to Dr. Gibney about it. Dr. Gibney was my pediatrician. Vegetarianism is a great diet. Just make sure she eats plenty of dark green leafy vegetables, instructed Dr. Gibney to my mom. And just like that, my mom became a vegetarian too, inspired by her 7-year-old. She shared she had always wanted to be a vegetarian but was concerned about nutrition. My dad became vegetarian with us at home, occasionally eating chicken at restaurants. After a few weeks or months, he was fully vegetarian. With our dogs, also aka my big sisters, and various pet rodents, we've always been a family of animal lovers. Cattle are the primary driver of Amazon rainforest deforestation. It takes 2,000 gallons of water to produce 1 pound of beef and significant land to grow the grass, corn, hay, and soy fed to cows. I read in one of the 7 binders of my World Wildlife Fund Fact Files collection. When I moved to California in 2009 with my techie future husband taking a break from academia, I volunteered with the Food Empowerment Project because your food choices can change the world, and met many vegans and animal rights activists. I became fully vegan, something I had been inching closer to for years. Baby cows are taken from their mothers so we can drink their milk, and male chicks are discarded, I knew. Having a community made it easier when I was the only vegan in the room, and it felt so good to live in line with my values. But what Food Empowerment Project, FEP, excelled at was making the connection between the oppressed, humans and animals. The conditions and treatment endured by farm workers and slaughterhouse workers is reprehensible. FEP opened my eyes to chocolate slavery, where young people, often teenagers and children, are enslaved in cacao fields in Africa. I've learned which companies to avoid. Strawberry pickers are exposed to pesticides, so another reason to buy organic, and forced to work regardless of heat stroke risk or poor air quality due to wildfires. Studies controlled for demographic and socioeconomic factors have shown that towns with large numbers of slaughterhouse employees have double the expected arrest rates for domestic violence and rape. Imagine the effect of their job on their mental health. Several weeks ago at the Stanford Food Summit, Professor Steve Luby shared in his keynote this fact I had heard before, but still makes my jaw drop. 10,000 years ago, humans made up 1% of vertebrate land animals, and wildlife made up 99%. Today, humans make up 32%, wild animals just 1%, and livestock make up 67%. As a vegan of 16 years, vegetarian for 34, I've relished learning about the many health aspects of a plant-rich diet. After dabbling in animal rights activism in the 2010s with mixed feelings, I'm eager to learn what influences people most to embrace a plant-rich diet. I will continue to speak up for animals, perhaps gently asking why love one, such as a dog or cat, and eat another, such as a pig or cow, but also listen to what motivates others. Is it the health of the planet or the health of their body or loved ones? Or to quote Christopher Gardner, is it food that is unapologetically delicious? So many compelling reasons to make this shift that is better for animals, the planet, farm workers, and us. What speaks to you?
Wow. Dang, Catherine, I love it. Yeah, getting lots of love all around. And you also have like a minute to play with for different
Okay.
concepts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I know
Yeah.
it's too much in the
That's-
story of self. I want to get more into the story of us and now, like we've been talking through. So
Mhm.
need some work.
Yeah, always, you know,
But
the
if
iteration.
a 7-year-old can influence the whole family,
Yeah.
imagine
I
what
feel
you can do right
lucky. It's funny.